and welcome back to Logic Queen's Book Reviews. My name is Logic Queen, and I have a new book to review today. Today, I'll be reviewing Half Upon a Time by James Riley. James Riley is one of my favorite authors, and that's why I've chosen his first book, Half Upon a Time, for this section of Book Bingo. This is his first kids book. I don't know for sure if it's his first book, but this is the one I've chosen, and it's a really good book. So, a summary of the book. Half Upon a Time is a fiction kids book based on fairy tales. The book takes place in a world of magic and fairy tales where Snow White is real and so are giants. May, an unsuspecting teenager, gets thrown into this world from the real world and has to learn what she and her grandmother have to do with this fictional world. With the help of a commoner, Jack, and a prince, Philip, they go on a journey to rescue May's grandmother. So, of course, I'll be reviewing this with the normal sections, which are relationships, words, things that happened, and feels. So, relationships. There's not really much romantic relationships in this book. There are some, but it's really not a main plot. It's very subplot, and, it doesn't have a lot to do with it. There is waking the princess with a kiss. That is a scene in the book. And the princess did not appreciate that in the book, but you'll see what I mean by that if you read it. But still, it's very clean. I will say there are also boys who are wanting to marry the princess. That is, just a thing at the time. It's the boys, they want to marry the princess, and so that they would become prince and gain that power. But those are just very minor things in the book. Mostly the book contains good friendships and the becoming of good friendships, growing friendships. But there are also some enemy relationships because it's an action book, and so you're going to have that conflict. And so in relationships, I would say it's 5 out of 5 stars. Very good, very clean. Okay, words. There's no language in this book, so that's great. It does use words like stupid and idiot, and that's, just how the author writes, and it keeps it fast-paced and very kiddish. The phrase devil horse is used and things like that, but it's all justifiable, I think, and nothing too bad. But all in all, this is a fast-paced book, and it has a pretty low reading level, maybe 4th grade. It's really hard for me to tell, but that would be my guess, is probably around 4th grade reading level. And yeah, words, 5 out of 5 stars. Pretty good on that front too. Okay, things that happen. Now, I have a lot to cover in this section because there are a lot of things that happen in the book, and it's a fantasy book, and so then I've got a lot of things to go over that are fantasy and fairy tale related. So, action book, so lots of fight scenes, but all of that is pretty clean. There is, references to blood and unconsciousness, but those are all pretty minor. At the beginning of the book, there is a boy playing a princess in a training, and I just wanted to mention this. It's not really a big part of the book at all, but, the boy is dressed in a princess dress and has a princess wig on. But, he's playing the part in a training, and it's not a big thing. Okay, so this is fairy tale, so we have witches and genies and imps, and all kinds of magical creatures. And so those are some of the bigger ones in this book, and other books in the trilogy will have other magical creatures. So the genies, they are also referred to as Jinn, D-G-A-I-N, I think, Jinn, and also Ifrits. So that's just some of the words I use for genies, just so I mentioned that. Okay, the witch. There might be multiple witches. I think there's just one in this book, but I have to mention this scene because this witch has no eyes and an eggshell head. Now, funny story, I read this book to my little sister, and, I had read it. I'm like, this is an amazing book. I definitely should read it out loud to her. And then I get to this scene. Now, this is one of the early scenes in the book. We have this witch that does not have a face, and it's just very weird and a little bit creepy. And so they come across this witch. She has no eyes, eggshell head, and I don't know if she has a back of the head or not either. But anyway, it's just a weird character, and she wants to eat them. And so that is just, I think I ended up summarizing that scene, but that's about the weirdest scene in the book, I think. And I will say the witch does have children, and they are described as having empty eye sockets and sharpened claws and fangs. And so she wants to cook the main characters for her children to eat. So, just a really weird thing that's happened. Speaking of getting eaten, one character is eaten by a giant at one point in the book. Now, he's not digested, it's just there's a scene where he's in the giant's mouth, but that is something that happens in the book. And then a very small part in the book, they cut themselves for blood. But it's not for rituals or sacrifices or anything like that. They just need their blood for something in the book, and I still feel like it's pretty clean. Like, it's not bad, but that is something that's happened. And then I also want to mention there's a bit of a graphic transformation into a dragon. So a woman transforms into a dragon, and it's just is a little weird. Like, your imagination can fill in the blanks where it wants to there. But basically, she bursts out of her human skin into dragon form. And so that is something else that happens in the book. And then I guess I'll mention this. There is this is kind of a questionable thing, and it doesn't really have much in this book, but the possibility of a dead man speaking. So that is something, like, it's not really confirmed or denied, but that is something that's mentioned, like, way, like, at the end of the book. So, anyways, things that happened, those were all the scenes that I found that were questionable. And so I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 stars, just because there's some scenes in there that are just a little bit weird, but nothing that's really too bad. Okay, feels. So this is a fun and fast-paced book to read. And that could be because the author has, like, double-spaced the lines, and so it keeps your eyes going across the words and the lines, and you can read through the book really quickly. There are no bad feelings necessarily, but questioning characters' motives, like, you're not really sure, like, you know the fairy tales that these characters are from, but then in this fairy tale world, you don't know if they're good or bad, so you kind of are questioning, are they good, are they bad, throughout the book. But I think this is a perfect book for reluctant readers. James Riley is just such a fun author. Like I said, fast-paced book. This specific book, don't know a lot of people who have read this one, but James Riley's other series, Story Thieves, I know at least 2 people who read it, and they're not big readers, but they read the entire series pretty quickly. So, he's a fun author, and I think that this one, Half Upon a Time, is a good book, and I would recommend it. So, under the feels, I would give it 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, final review. This is the final review with the stars for each category. And the final scoring is 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's a very good book, and I would give it that rating. Okay, my closing thoughts. I have read this book several times, and it's still one of my favorites. While there are some scenes that are questionable, I do not feel like it crosses any lines, and these scenes do move the story forward. The ending of the book is maybe not what one would expect, but it is book 1 of a trilogy, and the series does end well. So I would recommend this book, probably ages 8+. On the back of the book, it does say ages 8 to 12, and so I feel like that's a pretty good age range to recommend it for. So, this is the Book Bingo review, now at 3 spaces on the Book Bingo, moving right along, and I'm excited to get to reading more and fill up more of this Book Bingo. That's it, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this book